What is radon? In this video, you'll learn the answer. So radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas, and it's produced by the ground. The ground produces radon through the normal decay of uranium and radium. And as it decays, radon produces new radioactive elements that scientists have shown cause lung cancer. So when people are in the market to buy a home, they will ask themselves if they should be concerned about the house having radon. I'm a real estate agent serving buyers and sellers in Cambridge and Somerville, Massachusetts, and I have been working in this market for 20 plus years. And I typically see people have a concern about radon if the house has finished lower level space, or the condominium, the residence. Now, radon, the experts say, can be found not just on the lower level, but any level of the home. But it's been my experience over the last several decades that typically people will concern themselves with testing for radon if the residence features some finished lower level space, or for that matter, some space on the lower level that they imagine they're going to be spending some time in. And so when people measure for radon, it's measured in picocuries per liter. And the EPA recommends that if a radon test result results in a reading higher than 4 PCI per liter, to remediate. So when people test for radon, there's typically two ways that tests are conducted. The first is radon test files are left in place for 48 hours, and then these test files are picked up and sent off to a lab to test for radon levels. And it can take a couple days for the test results to arrive in the mail, the test files to arrive at the lab in the mail. And then in today's world, the results are typically posted online. And so the person who had the test done can just go to the website and see what the test results are. I think the purpose of two test files is so you get two readings and you can decide if you're getting a similar reading from both, that you have accurate information. And if they're different, then you can retest. The other way that people test is with a machine that's put in place, typically again for 48 hours, and it's run. And then when the machine test is completed and the person who put the machine test in place comes back, you immediately know the radon test results and whether or not you have a reading above 4. People who utilize machine tests need to take very careful care of their machines and know that they're properly calibrated so that they get an accurate result. So whether you test by vials or whether you test by machine, you're going to find out the results. And if, as the EPA says, it's a radon test reading of 4 or higher, then you need to mitigate. So in a real estate transaction here, if the radon level is high, there is typically the requirement to mitigate prior to closing. So a buyer makes an offer. It includes a radon contingency. They test for radon. The radon test comes back and it's high. And if that's the case, then the seller needs to solve the problem. Otherwise, the buyer is going to exit the deal. They're not going to want to complete the purchase of a home with a high radon level, as radon is known to cause lung cancer, and they're not going to want to put themselves at risk with that high radon level. So what does radon mitigation involve? So it's essentially installing an active soil depressurization system. And it, in my experience, is typically requiring someone to spend something like a couple $1,000s. No two residences are the same. No two radon mitigation solutions are the same. But basically, you need to introduce a solution that solves the problem, and it's typically a seller expense. Now, if the buyer decides not to complete the transaction based on the radon reading, the seller, in most instances, is going to still proceed forward with solving the problem, because they're not going to go back on the market with a high radon level that they're ignoring. They're going to understand that the next potential buyer is going to have the same concern and that they're going to need to solve it. So look, radon is common. It's estimated by some that maybe as many as 1 in 6 homes have high radon levels. And it may be that even if the house next door has a low radon reading, that the house that you're investigating the radon level for has a high radon reading. So it's not as if we can say, oh, this neighborhood is free of radon. It can vary because where radon comes is through cracks in the foundation or foundation walls. And so radon is coming from the ground, and the ground is not the same in any one place. So it can vary from house to house. And so it's always a good idea to check for radon if you want to be aware of what's happening at the address for safety. So I've included a link below with a video that you can watch to learn more about radon and radon mitigation and what it's all about. But radon is a significant and serious matter that should be attended to in a real estate transaction to make sure that the property is safe. My name is Charles Cherney. I work with buyers and sellers in Cambridge and Somerville. Reach out at any time if you have questions concerning radon or are seeking assistance in your real estate transaction. Take care.